The new Presqu'île Lighthouse is the tallest accessible lighthouse tower that you can climb on the Great Lakes.
U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Orlando M. Poe built the lighthouse back in 1870 to replace the previous harbor light built in 1840.
It took us a total of 130 steps to climb the tower, which stood 113 feet high, but once we made it to the top, the view was spectacular.
Attached to the lighthouse was the keeper's quarters, which is primarily where each lighthouse keeper would work.
Next to the lighthouse stood the keeper's home. In 1861, President Lincoln appointed Patrick Garrity as the fourth keeper of the old lighthouse.
He was also instated as the first keeper of this lighthouse.
This keeper's home is where the family stayed, while Mr. Garrity tended to the lighthouse until 1935.
This photograph is of the Garrity family. This is a picnic they had with some friends. And it shows Patrick and Mary Garrity. They were the original keepers. Patrick was appointed by President Lincoln at the old light, served there until it closed down in 1870, and then moved up here and became the keeper at the new light until he retired in 1891. His wife Mary was his unpaid assistant for several years. Their children became keepers. Tom became his father's successor here. Patrick Jr. became keeper at lights in the Upper Peninsula. And Anna, seated at the left here, is especially noteworthy because she is one of the few women in the Great Lakes who was a full-time keeper with a paycheck.
We were able to see how families kept warm during harsh winters and where the keeper's wife prepared meals.
For quite a long time, there was no running water in the house. I think running water came in just before World War II. So from 1905 until about 1941, I think, there was no running water here. So you'd have to bring buckets of water from the well outside.
This would be around my neck?
That would be around the neck. The opening is for your neck, and then you would suspend buckets from each of those
on these
straps. That way you could carry 2 buckets of water, a little easier than carrying them by hand and sloshing them all over you.
When it was time to eat, this is where the family would gather to enjoy delicious meals.
As I said, the keepers would bring all their own furnishings, including their tableware. One of the things that happened is that during the years of the lighthouse service, the China was official lighthouse service China. But when the Coast Guard took over, they required that keepers break all the old lighthouse service China and replace it with Coast Guard China.
Downstairs in the basement was where the family would do their laundry.
Unfortunately, there weren't washing machines and dryers like we use today. Instead, they cleaned their clothes using a different method.
After touring the lighthouse, we ventured off to a nearby restaurant that attracts many lighthouse visitors.
It sits off the same body of water that many ships travel through today. Plus, the food was great. Lighthouses have played a vital role in a sailor's mission.
And they still continue to help ships to safety today.
Join us next week for more adventure.